إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله أما بعد فإن أحسن الكلام كلام الله وخير الهدى هدى محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم وإن شر الأمور محدثاتها وكل محدثة بدعة وكل بدعة ضلالة وكل ضلالة في النار. So in the previous lesson we looked at the statement of Imam At-Tahawi rahimahullah, وَنَرَى الْجَمَاعَةَ حَقًّا وَصَوَابًا وَالْفُرْقَةَ زَيْغًا وَعَذَابًا. And in the previous lesson we looked at the first half of this sentence, that the jama'ah is haqq and sawab. And so this jama'ah, the Shaykh explained that the jama'ah is the jama'ah in terms of the deen and the dunya. So there's unity in terms of the deen, in the matters of the religion, and there's also jama'ah in terms of the dunya. And if you do not have jama'ah in one, it will lead to separation in the other. So for example, if there's no unity in terms of the deen, it will lead to furqa in terms of the dunya, in terms of the abdan, in terms of the bodies. And if there is no jama'ah in terms of the abdan, the bodies, it will eventually lead to furqa in terms of the religion, in terms of the affairs of the deen. So these two things are connected. They are binding and they are connected. And so the Shaykh, he gave examples historically in history of the Khawarij and groups like that, and how matters of creed are connected to matters of unity in terms of physically, in terms of the bodies. So today's lesson we are going to look at the second half of this statement. So the first half, we said وَنَرَى الْجَمَاعَةَ حَقًّا وَصَوَابًا. The second half, وَالْفُرْقَةَ زَيْغًا وَعَذَابًا, which means that furqa, separation, is zayg, which is deviation, and adhab, which is punishment. So the Shaykh here, Shaykh Salih al-Shaykh, he says that just like with ijtima', just like with unity, just like with the jama'ah, furqa can also be in two things. It can be in deen, ad-deen, and it can be in terms of al-abdan. Al-furqatu fi ad-deen wal-furqatu fil abdan. And so the Shaykh says that this understanding is something taken from the Salaf when they gave the tafsir of the ayah, the statement of Allah Azza wa Jal, وَاعْتَصِمُوا بِحَبْلِ اللَّهِ جَمِيعًا وَلَا تَفَرَّقُوا. The Shaykh says that this i'tisam, this holding together, it means al-jama'ah fi ad-din. Al-jama'ah fi ad-din. And when he said وَلَا تَفَرَّقُوا, this is the prohibition of furqa in terms of the abdan, the bodies. So in this verse there are two things. وَاعْتَصِمُوا بِحَبْلِ اللَّهِ جَمِيعًا. This is commanding jama'ah fi ad-din, al-jama'atu fi ad-din. وَلَا تَفَرَّقُوا. The Shaykh says this indicates prohibition of furqa in terms of the abdan, the bodies. Then if you look at the rest of the verse, the rest of the ayah, in the rest of this ayah, Allah Azza wa Jal, He says, وَاذْكُرُوا نِعْمَةَ اللَّهِ عَلَيْكُمْ إِذْ كُنْتُمْ أَعْدَاءَ فَأَلَّفَ بَيْنَ قُلُوبِكُمْ فَأَصْبَحْتُمْ بِنِعْمَتِهِ إِخْوَانًا. So if you look at the rest of the verse reminds the companions of the favor of Allah in that they used to be enemies previously. They used to be enemies, and obviously this means that they were separated in different tribes, having wars, having battles, having enmity, having hatred. So they were separated in terms of bodies, in terms of the bodies. So in the same verse, we see the connection between, as the Shaykh says, al-jama'atu fil abdan wa nahi anil furqa fil abdan, and prohibition of being separated in terms of bodies, and the command to be united upon the deen. Also, we have the same understanding in a different verse. In Surah Ash-Shura, the 42nd Surah, verse number 13, in this ayah we have the same meaning. An aqimud deen, wala tatafarraqu fih. That you should establish the religion and be not divided therein. So establish the religion and have no furqa in the deen of Allah. So this is the first point that the Shaykh mentions, that we see that these are opposites. These are opposites. Al-Jama'ah is the opposite of Al-Furqa. And Ar-Rahmah, mercy, is the opposite of Adhab, which is punishment. So these two are opposites, and we see this commanded in the Quran. The second issue, the second mas'ala the Shaykh mentions is that this furqa, which happened in the Ummah, in the Muslim nation, this furqa has a number of levels. There are 3 levels. The first level is the separation in which the opposition is in the asl of the religion. In the asl of the religion, which means that these are affairs of shirk and kufr. These are affairs of disbelief, and examples of this include worshipping other than Allah, a shirk, worshipping tombs, rejecting the attributes of Allah Azza wa Jal, or denying Allah's ilm, that Allah, His claiming that Allah does not know the actions of His servants before they occur, which is the bid'ah of the Qadariyah, right? So to deny Allah's ilm, and likewise worshipping the stars, believing the stars have an influence upon the events on the earth, and then worshipping them, believing in astrology, and calling upon the dead, making dua to the dead, making istighatha to the dead. All of these things, for example, they came by way of the Batiniyah and the Rafidah. These are the people who innovated these affairs of kufr and shirk into the deen. So this led to furqa and separation. So this is in the asl of the religion. In the asl of the religion. This is the first level. The second level, the Shaykh says, is al-iftiraq al-bid'i. Al-iftiraq al-bid'i, which is a separation which takes place on account of innovations. Like, for example, the innovations of the Khawarij and the Murji'ah and groups like that, whose statements are not necessarily statements of disbelief. So there are numerous groups who fell into this particular category. This is a second level. And the third level of al-iftiraq is al-iftiraq fil masail al-amaliyah, which is differing in terms of the practical actions. This is in al-fiqh and in the ahkam, in the jurisprudence, in the rulings of al-tahara, al-aniyah, the utensils, rulings of prayer, the rulings of fasting, selling, buying, crimes and criminal punishments, divorce, inheritance. All of these things we see that there is ikhtilaf, there is variation and differing in these kind of issues. So the Shaykh says that in all of these 3 levels, in the asl of the religion, where there is kufr and shirk, and then in the affairs of bid'ah, where we see many jama'at and firaq, and then likewise in the affairs of fiqh and ahkam, we see likewise there is ikhtilaf which appeared in these issues. Ikhtilaf which also appeared in these issues. So we are going to focus upon this third category. Category number 3, which is al-masail al-fiqhiyya. And there's a lot of speech in relation to this. So the Shaykh says, al-ikhtilaf in al-masail al-fiqhiyya, in the matters to do with fiqh. He says, in terms of the asal, in terms of the foundation, it is madhmoom. It is blameworthy, meaning in terms of the asal, the foundation. To differ is something that is blameworthy. So we are focusing upon the third category. There are 3 levels of splitting in the ummah. The first is splitting in the asal of the religion, in the asal of the deen, in matters pertaining to tawheed and things which expel a person from Islam. So this is the first level. Second level are matters of bid'ah, which are not mukaffirah. They do not exit from the religion. And the third level is in matters of fiqh, in the masail fiqhiyya. And so we are speaking about the third category number 3, because it's important for us to understand some of the tafsilat, some of the detailed issues regarding this. So the Shaykh says, when we speak about differing in the masail fiqhiyya, for example, differing to do with the rulings in prayer, for example, or purification, or marriage and divorce, and all these other issues which are the practical actions, the Shaykh says, min hayth al-asal, from the foundation, it is madhmoom, it is blameworthy. Even if we know that a scholar, an alim who makes an ijtihad, and he makes a mistake. So even though he makes a mistake, he is still rewarded. He is given 1 reward. And if he is correct, he is given 2 rewards. But this does not mean that differing is acceptable, that differing is praiseworthy. No, because the asal is that all differing is madhmoom. It is blameworthy. And the Shaykh mentions the ayah in Surah Hud towards the end, 118, 119, وَلَا يَزَالُونَ مُخْتَلِفِينَ إِلَّا مَنْ رَحِمَ رَبُّكَ, that they will never cease to differ, except the one upon whom is Allah's mercy. So ikhtilaf, in terms of the asl, the foundation, it is blameworthy. That's the first issue. The second issue is that the Shaykh says that we see historically that there has always been differing in the masail fiqhiyya. We see that this happened amongst the Sahaba radiyallahu anhum, between the Imams, al-A'immatul Mujtahideen, the Mujtahid Imams. And so these people, either they have 1 reward or they have 2 rewards. As long as a person is seeking the truth, and he's pursuing the truth, and he makes a mistake, he will be given 1 reward. He will be given 1 reward. Now this is different, we shouldn't confuse this between, for example, people like the muqallida, the people who blindly follow, or the people who have at-ta'assub, al-madhhabi, they have, bias towards a madhhab. So when they go and they look into the evidences, they are not really seeking the truth. What they want is they want to support their madhhab. And so if they make a mistake, they are not the same as the one who seeks the truth and he makes a mistake. Right? So we don't treat these two to be the same. Because one person is seeking the truth, he's seeking evidence, seeking the dalil, he wants to follow the dalil, and he wants to know what the Sahaba understood, but he makes a mistake. This alim, he makes a mistake. He gets 1 reward. But in these examples, we see a person, he's not seeking the truth. he's seeking something else, right? And then he makes a mistake. His mistake is not the same as this mistake. So the Shaykh says it is important that a person, he has at-taharri lil-haq, which means that he is someone who is, he's seeking the truth, he's pursuing the truth, he wants the truth, right? This is the person who receives one reward if he makes a mistake. So that is the second issue. The second issue is to do with the different types of iftiraq in the asl of the deen, in affairs of bid'ah, and then in the affairs of al-masail al-fiqhiyah. And that this is blameworthy as well. This is also blameworthy. Even if a person who makes a mistake, he will still get one reward as long as he is sincere and he wants the truth. But aslan, it is madhmoom. The third issue is, now the Shaykh goes on to explain in a bit more detail about these issues. And he says that this ikhtilaf now that we are speaking of, the ikhtilaf in the masail, in the issues of fiqh, he says that it is wajib that we do not have separation in the hearts and nor separation in the bodies. Right? So in the affairs of al-masail al-fiqhiyah, then it is there should not be any separation in the hearts or in the bodies, because this ikhtilaf, even though we know it shouldn't take place, Allah Azza wa Jal, He has made it to happen. Allah Azza wa Jal, He has made this ikhtilaf to happen and to take place. And the Shaykh says this is al-ibtila min Allah. This is a test and a trial from Allah. Even though we shouldn't have it, we shouldn't have this separation in bodies and hearts because we disagree about, for example, a matter to do with wudu or as-salah or marriage or divorce or something of that nature. But it is something which exists. And this is al-ibtila min Allah. It is something by which Allah puts people to trial and to test. Meaning He has decreed that the scholars will differ. There will be ikhtilaf amongst the ulama. And this is as a means of trying and testing the people to see, will they follow the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam? Will they follow the daleel? Will they follow the evidence? Or will they follow their desires? So the Shaykh says it is wajib when a person sees ikhtilaf amongst the scholars in a matter to do with fiqh or to do with the ahkam, that he looks and he looks and he follows the alim, the scholar whom he knows, he follows the truth, and there's no blame upon that person, right? As long as there is no hawa, there's no desires which are involved. Now, this is different to when someone, for example, he sticks to an imam, blindly sticks to an imam, and he doesn't follow the truth, doesn't pursue the truth, and the truth comes to him and he sticks continuously, then this obviously now is blameworthy. But a person who does not know, the truth hasn't become clear to him, he places trust in an alim, he knows this alim, he's someone who follows the haqq, he follows the sunnah, he follows the everything, and even though he is mistaken, the alim is mistaken and the person follows him in the mistake, as long as the truth has not come to him, then he is ma'dhur. He is excused. There's no blame upon such a person. So, then the Shaykh goes on to say that, however, in the situation where there is ikhtilaf in al-masail al-fiqhiyah, and this leads to ikhtilaf al-abdan wal-furqa, it leads to separation in the bodies, it leads to separation and splitting, then this is from punishment. This is al-uqubah. This is now punishment from Allah Azza wa Jal. And this is az-zayr. This now is the deviation which Allah Azza wa Jal that he warned from. And this is why Imam al-Tahawi rahimahullah, he said, وَالْفُرْقَةَ زَيْغًا وَعَذَابًا. It is zayr because zayg means deviation. It is a deviation from what is obligatory. And it is adhab because Allah Azza wa Jal has punished the people by way of it. And the evidence for this is the statement of Allah Azza wa Jal regarding Bani Israel, فَبِمَا نَقْضِهِمْ مِيثَاقَهُمْ لَعَنَّاهُمْ وَجَعَلْنَا قُلُوبَهُمْ قَاسِيَةً يُحَرِّفُونَ الْكَلِمَ عَنْ مَوَاضِعِهِ وَنَسُوا حَظًّا مِمَّا ذُكِرُوا بِهِ. So because they violated their covenant, we cursed them and we made their hearts to be hard, and they distort the words from their proper places, and they forgot وَنَسُوا حَظًّا مِمَّا ذُكِرُوا بِهِ, and they forgot a portion of that which they were reminded of. So this is what they fell into. What was the natija? What was the result? فَأَغْرَيْنَا بَيْنَهُمُ الْعَدَاوَةَ وَالْبَغْضَاءَ. This is a result, that we made them to fall into, to be consumed in enmity and hatred towards each other. So this shows that when people abandon what they should hold on to, then this is the consequence. So whenever you see this ta'assub, this partisanship, in these masail, this actually is a type of punishment, because some people have abandoned the truth, and so this is a type of punishment from Allah Azza wa Jal. So the Shaykh then says that this is something that we see which has happened in this ummah. It has taken place in this ummah, and we see that between the people there is speech, and one person he's trying to support this view, another person is trying to support that view. And the Shaykh says what is wajib upon everybody is that we try to aid the truth, we support the truth, and we excuse each other in matters in which a person can be excused. As long as we know that a person is seeking the truth and he's an alim who desires the truth and he makes a mistake, he makes a slip, then we excuse in these kind of situations. The Shaykh says we see how many of the well-known imams, well-known scholars, they opposed the dalil. They opposed a clear evidence. But they are excused. They are excused because of that. The Shaykh then goes on to say that he then goes on to make the same point, that it is wajib that we do not fall into al-baghdha, hatred and dislike. And then he gives an example of how this went to an extreme between the Shafi'iyah and the Hanafiyah. If you go historically, you see that from the Shafi'is were those who basically made takfir of the Hanafis, and from the Hanafis were those who made takfir of the Shafi'is, because of this ta'assub in terms of the issues of the ahkam fiqhiyah. And likewise, some of the Hanafis, they even made takfir of some of the Hanabila in some of the issues. And so this is al-baghi, al-udwan, this is transgression, oppression, enmity, going way beyond the bounds. And the Shaykh says this is something that we find it continues till this day. And the Shaykh says that every time a person increases in his knowledge, then he will be eager to always follow the truth. And when he's trying to follow the truth, he will make sure that he doesn't allow that to cause any separation. Then he mentions a statement from Imam Malik rahimahullah. And Imam Malik, someone said to him, الرجل تكون عنده السنة أيجادل عنها. So it was said to Imam Malik that a man, he knows the sunnah. He has the sunnah with him. He knows what the sunnah is. Should he then argue in order to defend it? Should he engage in argumentation? And Imam Malik, Imam Malik, he said la. First of all, he said no, la, meaning that when he sees, in fact, before we look at this statement, we need some background. In Al-Madinah, there was a group of people who were similar to people in Kufa. In Kufa, there were the people of Ra'i. They would give their opinion and put it over hadith. Right? So this madhab, this group or this school became known as Ahlul Ra'i. And this was in Kufa. And at the same time in Medina, there was a small group of people in Medina at the same time as Imam Malik. Imam Malik, he was the Imam of Medina. And at the same time as Malik, there was a group of people who had the same approach. And he mentions here Rabi'atul Ra'i, and whoever was with him, there was a group of people like a madrasa, and they would stick to Ra'i, and they didn't have detailed knowledge of the Sunnah. So this person, he's come to Imam Malik, and he said, "Arajul takunu indahu as-sunnah ayujadilu anha." A man who has the Sunnah, should he now go and start debating and arguing to defend it? And so Imam Malik, rahimahullah, he said, "La yukhbiru bis-sunnah." He simply said, "No, do not argue. Just tell him what the Sunnah is. فَإِنْ قُبِلَتْ مِنْهُ وَإِلَّا سَكَتْ." So either it will be accepted from him, otherwise he should remain quiet. Just be quiet. Now what's the wisdom behind this statement? The wisdom behind this is, as the Shaykh explains, لأن الشيطان يأتي ويجعل الإنسان ينتصر لنفسه لا للسنة. The Shaykh explains, he says, what will happen is, say you are sitting in a gathering and someone mentions something which opposes the Sunnah. According to Imam Malik's advice, what you are supposed to do is you are supposed to say, the Sunnah is such and such. The Sunnah is this. That's what you say. Right? Now, if the man accepts it, good. If he doesn't accept it, you just remain quiet. You don't say nothing. Because if you then go into an argumentation, if now it becomes an argumentation, and then you start saying, no, because this, and then he says, no, because this, and now it leads into argumentation. Now what will happen is, this argumentation, and each person will try to defend his position rather than defending the Sunnah. Right? And it now becomes you want to defend your position, he wants to defend his position, and then it becomes something in the souls, and then it leads to a person losing his ikhlas, his sincerity. So Imam Malik's advice, beautiful advice, is that all you do is you state what the Sunnah is. This is what the Sunnah is. And you don't engage in argumentation, because then you have, you've stated the truth, and the truth has been made clear. So this leads us now to the next point. And the next point is that obviously we've spoken about ikhtilaf. We have spoken about ikhtilaf. But not all ikhtilaf is the same. Not all ikhtilaf is the same. There is ikhtilaf. In fact, there's a statement from which Imam al-Suyuti he brings. He says, not all differing has come mu'tabiran. Not all khilaf is accepted. Not all khilaf is accepted. In fact, there are two types of khilaf. There are two types of differing. The first one is called khilafun qawi. Khilafun qawi. And the second type is khilafun da'if. Khilafun da'if. What do these two terms mean? Khilafun qawi is when to have a difference is something which is very strong, meaning that the differing is something which has a strong basis, right? It has a strong basis. And khilaf da'if is when the differing has a very weak basis, meaning there's no justification for the differing. Right? So do you understand how these terms are working? Khilafun qawi is when the khilaf, meaning to be in opposition and differing, to have different views, it has a strong basis. And khilaf da'if is when the differing, meaning that you have a view, he has a view, it doesn't have a strong basis. It has a very weak basis. So, the Shaykh then says, he explains each one. Al-khilaf al-qawi, its principle, its dhabit, is ما كان الخلاف فيه في فهم الدليل في فهم الدليل ولا مرجح. Right, so you want to write this down. This first type of khilaf, which is the khilaf qawi, is one where we simply differ about what is the correct interpretation of an evidence. Right? So we agree upon the evidence, right? We have this hadith. We all agree upon this hadith. So one person comes and he says, well, I understand this from the hadith. This is my understanding. An alim says, this is my understanding from the hadith. Then another alim comes and he says, well, no, this is my understanding of the hadith. Right? So here now, the khilaf is qawi, because there is nothing really clear which says that this understanding is correct and this one is wrong, or that one is correct and that one is wrong. Right? So here there is a strong basis a strong basis for the khilaf, meaning you can have that view, you can have that view. Now, the khilaf da'if, ما كان الخلاف فيه بمخالفة الدليل أو بالغلط في فهم الدليل. As for the khilaf which is da'if, then this is one where either the evidence, you clearly oppose the evidence. It's clear opposition to the evidence. Right? Or you have made a serious error in understanding the dalil. Right? Either you've clearly opposed the dalil or you've made a serious error in understanding the dalil. Right? So are these two clear? Yeah? Sorry? Yeah, this is now why you made a serious mistake in understanding the evidence. It's a serious mistake. Or you actually oppose the evidence. Right? Like for example, this is da'if one, da'if. Khilaf da'if. Meaning, the word da'if, it's confusing. The word da'if means that there is a weak reason to justify the khilaf. Do you get what I'm saying? And khilaf qawi means a khilaf which has a strong reason to justify the khilaf. Yeah? So, for example of khilaf da'if is in the Quran, Allah Azza wa Jal, He says, أَوْ لَامَسْتُمُ النِّسَاءِ. Right? Speaking about relations with women. لَامَسْتُمُ النِّسَاءِ. The word لَامَسْتُم, in this verse, it means to have relations with women. So, what the Shafi'is did, they took the word, because the word literally means to touch. Right? So they thought, hang on, to touch a woman, it breaks your wudu. So they said, if you touch a female, you have to now go and do your wudu again. This is clearly contradicted by the action of the Messenger of Allah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. Clearly opposed. Right? So now this khilaf is da'if. Because it opposes evidence, or it is ghalat, it is faulty understanding of evidence. Right? So in this situation, you can't say yes, this one is right and that one is right. Because the khilaf here, the basis is da'if. There's no strong basis to justify the khilaf. But when there is khilaf qawi, then this is where you have a text and it's a matter of understanding. And it's not clear which understanding is correct. His angle is strong, his angle is strong. Right? So this now is khilaf qawi. Don't be deceived by the word weak and strong. The word strong means, is there a strong basis for people to be in khilaf? Yes, there is. The word da'if means, is there a weak basis? Is it a weak basis for people to actually be allowed to differ? Yes, it's a weak basis. That's what it actually means. Yeah? So he says, so now we understand this. He says, وَالْخِلَافِ الْقَوِي لَا إِنْكَارَ فِيهِ. So any khilaf which is khilaf qawi, there is no reason for us to start showing rejection against each other. Yes? Meaning any khilaf which has a strong basis, we don't start differing and splitting and separating on account of these issues. So is that clear? Khilaf is of two types. Khilaf qawi and khilaf da'if. Some types of khilaf, for example, might actually have a basis in the Sharia. Right? For example, there might be different ways to sit in the prayer. When you sit in the prayer, there might be different ways to sit. There might be different adhkar to recite. Right? This now is what we call ikhtilaf at-tanawwu'. Ikhtilaf at-tanawwu'. This means that the Sharia has come with variation. This variation is in the Sharia itself. Right? This is haram to split and differ because this has evidence and that has evidence. The Sharia came with all of these. Right? This is one type of khilaf. So this is something that's clearly from the Sharia. Then there is khilaf qawi, where there is different interpretations of an evidence. Everyone agrees upon the evidence. No one is opposing the evidence. But it's how you interpret the evidence. Right? This also, it's not permissible to start, opposing and separating in the hearts and separating in the bodies. No. We accept this. Then there is khilaf da'if, where there is, where you're clearly opposing an evidence, where you are making something that's, clearly an understanding that's clearly wrong. Right? We cannot accept this. This has no justification. So is all of this clear? Because now we're going to move to the next level now. Right? So we are clear about al-masail, to do with the issues to do with al-khilaf differing. Now we are going to move to something else. This is called masail al-ijtihad. Right. Masail al-ijtihad. Right. We are separating between masail al-khilafiyah and masail al-ijtihadiyah. Let me explain to you the difference. The difference is, ijtihad is when there is no clear evidence in the Quran or the Sunnah. Right? It's a new situation. For example, is a test tube baby allowed? Yeah? For someone who cannot have a child? Is artificial, insemination or test tube babies or things of that nature, is it allowed or not allowed? There's no evidence in the Quran or the Sunnah. It's a new issue. It's a new issue. So the scholars now have to go and they have to analyze the text of the Quran and the Sunnah, find similar situations, make qiyas, make an analogy, and then come with a ruling. This is what we call, these are what we call from the masail al-ijtihadiyah. Al-ijtihadiyah. Right? We are distinguishing between the issues of khilaf, meaning differing. That's one group of things. Right? Keep this to one side. And Masail al-Ijtihadiyah, that's another category. Keep them separate. They are not the same. Right? Because in Al-Masail al-Ijtihadiyah, these are issues which have no clear evidence. There is nothing in the Quran or the Sunnah that relate to them. Right? This is something where an alim has to make ijtihad. Right? Whereas the other issues, the Masail al-Khilafiyah, they are those in which there is clear evidence. There is clear evidence. Right? So either the evidence allows different views, or the evidence does not allow differing views. Yes? Is that clear? Is that clear, yeah? So these are one group of things, and the Masail Ijtihadiyah is another group of things. Right. So these, Al-Masail Al-Ijtihadiyah, these include things like, for example, war and peace. Like when a war takes place and the scholars make ijtihad about the rulings, right? And about peace and about current affairs, right? So they make, they give rulings to do with current affairs, to do with transport, to do with customs, to do with national security, right? To do with war, to do with peace, to do with international relations, right? All of these are Masail Ijtihadiyah. Masail Ijtihadiyah. So the Shaykh says, in these kind of issues, then every alim who makes an ijtihad, then he will be given at least one reward. He will be given at least one reward, right? Because he strives to find the right ruling, and he strives to, bring the that which is correct. And in these issues, there are no clear evidences such that we can say that this alim, he, did such and such or whatever, right? So these masail of ijtihad, they are separate to the issues of khilaf. So, once all of this is clear, we want to finish by just clarifying one statement. An ambiguous statement that some people might make sometimes, right? This statement is لا إنكار في مسائل الخلاف. لا إنكار في مسائل الخلاف. This means that no rejection this means that no rejection is to be shown in the masail of khilaf. Is this correct? Is this statement correct? In light of what we've just discussed. لا إنكار في مسائل الخلاف. It means there is no rejection to be shown in the masail, in the issues of khilaf. Is this correct? And the answer is no. Because we already distinguished between two types of khilaf. The khilaf qawi and the khilaf da'if. In khilaf qawi, there is no inkar. Yes? Is that clear? In khilaf qawi, there is no inkar. Because we already explained that this is something which has a basis in a text. Right? And there's no opposition to a text. It's a matter of understanding. But as for khilaf da'if, then yes, there is inkar. Yes, there is inkar in khilaf da'if. The khilaf which doesn't have any strong basis, it has a weak basis where two views can be justified. Yes? Is this correct? La inkar fi masail al-ijtihad. La inkar fi masail al-ijtihad. Is this correct? Is this correct or not? Correct, yes, this is correct. Because we already said that masail of ijtihad are those issues where no clear text exists. And this is referring specifically to the nawazil, the new things which arise, the new things which happen, right? New technology, new social situations, new situations in terms of, peace and war, and, things like this. So the scholars, they make ijtihad, he might make a mistake. So there's no inkar, as in, you don't criticize and find fault and blame and, you can give your opinion. You can say, yes, I believe this alim is wrong and it should be such and such. You can have that differing, but you don't start making rejection, right? Why? Because all of this now leads to the separation of the hearts and separation of the bodies. Right? So this really brings us to an end of the lesson. But you can see why it is important to understand this tafsil, because it relates to this principle of Ahlus Sunnati wal Jama'ah, which is, as we see At-Tahawi saying, وَنَرَى الْجَمَاعَةَ حَقًّا وَصَوَابًا وَالْفُرْقَةَ زَيْغًا وَعَذَابًا. Because splitting is deviation and it is punishment. And so we have to understand these kind of issues to realize, okay, when is criticism and rejection allowed? When is it not allowed? When can we accommodate different understandings? When can we not accommodate different understandings? Right? And which issues are issues in which there is evidence from the Quran and the Sunnah, and which issues are those which are ijtihadiyah? Yes. Meaning it is allowed to basically, make ijtihad, to make qiyas on the basis of, text in the Quran and the Sunnah, and to come with a view, right? So with that, inshallah ta'ala, this concludes our discussion of the statement of At-Tahawi. And so in the next lesson, At-Tahawi says, وَدِينُ اللَّهِ فِي الْأَرْضِ وَالسَّمَاءِ وَاحِدٌ وَهُوَ دِينُ الْإِسْلَامِ قَالَ اللَّهُ تَعَالَى إِنَّ الدِّينَ عِنْدَ اللَّهِ الْإِسْلَامِ. And وَقَالَ تَعَالَى وَرَضِيتُ لَكُمُ الْإِسْلَامَ دِينًا وهو بين الغلو والتقصير وبين التشبيه والتعطيل وبين الجبر والقدر وبين الأمن واليأس فهذا ديننا واعتقادنا ظاهرا وباطنا, to the end of the statement. So in the next lesson